Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into a truly fascinating project, a capacitive touch keyboard business card. It's incredibly ambitious, and the creator, Ricardo, has documented the entire process meticulously.
Yeah, I saw this on Hackaday. A business card that's also a fully functional keyboard? That's next level stuff. What microcontroller did he end up using?
Initially, he considered the RP2040, ATmega32U, and STM32F103, but they lacked native capacitive touch. So, he smartly switched to the CH32V303, which has built-in USB 2.0 and 16 capacitive touch channels, enough for a 40% keyboard via multiplexing. But then, to keep costs down, he went with the CH582M.
Wow, a cost optimization mid-project. That's impressive. What about the challenges? I bet there were a few.
Oh, absolutely. He encountered a major GND connection error on the initial PCB. The exposed pad of the microcontroller wasn't connected to the GND plane. A quick fix was needed there. He also learned that adding indicator LEDs, even a simple power LED, would have been beneficial, despite the initial cost-cutting measure, and the PCB thickness was a bit off, leading to a loose USB-C connection.
A loose USB-C connection on a business card keyboard? That sounds frustrating. What about the software side of things?
That's where it gets interesting. The CH582M doesn't play nicely with the Arduino IDE, so he's using Mound River Studio. He's already gotten code running, but there's still a lot of firmware development to do. He's also added a wireless antenna, leveraging the COVALENTC1H582M's Bluetooth capabilities. It's a really ambitious project.
Bluetooth on a business card keyboard? That's insane. What's the total cost? I'm curious about the economics of this.
Incredibly cheap. Around $1.50 USD for all the components. PCBWay sponsored the PCBs, which is a huge help. The whole thing is open source too, with schematics and firmware available on OSHW Lab and GitHub. It's a testament to the power of open source hardware and clever design choices.
That's amazing. But there's a comment on Hackaday.io pointing out that it might not be fully functional for all international keyboards, missing Alt-GR support, for example. That's a significant limitation, isn't it?
You're right, that's a valid criticism. The current design might not cater to all international keyboard layouts. That's definitely something to consider for future iterations. It highlights the complexity of designing a truly universal keyboard, even on a small scale. But, given the project's scope and low cost, it's still an incredible achievement.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic proof of concept, showcasing the potential of integrating advanced electronics into everyday objects. The ingenuity is remarkable.
Exactly. It's a great example of how far you can push the boundaries of embedded systems design with creativity and resourcefulness. And a big thanks to PCBWay for their support. That's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a truly bizarre and unsolved mystery. The 1970 bombing of Portland's Liberty Bell replica. It's a wild ride.
Whoa, a Liberty Bell bombing? Whew, I'm all ears. What happened?
It all started in the wee hours of a Saturday morning. Imagine this. Jack Helm, a night shift computer operator, is working in Portland City Hall. A beautiful building, by the way, completed in 1895 and modeled after the Russian Kremlin.
Wow, that's quite a design choice for a city hall. So, what's the connection to the Liberty Bell?
Right. Meanwhile, the custodian, Leslie Graham, is polishing the floor near a replica of the Liberty Bell, a gift from a patriotic businessman in the 60s. Then, boom, the bell explodes.
Incredible. What caused it? Was it a bomb?
That's the million-dollar question. The initial reports pointed to dynamite, but the FBI was strangely tight-lipped about the specifics. The investigation was interesting.
Interesting how? Spill the beans?
Well, the initial suspects were hippies. 4 men with long hair seen in a VW bus. They were quickly cleared, but the bus itself became a recurring motif in the investigation, seemingly changing colors. It's like something out of a movie.
A color-changing VW bus? This is getting wild. Did they ever find the real culprit?
No. The investigation also led to a man connected to the Patriot Party, but nothing concrete ever came of it. There were also theories about organized crime, given Portland's underworld scene at the time, and even a disgruntled cop. It's a real rabbit hole.
A disgruntled cop? Organized crime? This is better than any fictional thriller. So it remains unsolved?
Yep, completely unsolved. The article even mentions a later discovery of 36 boxes of police files on counterculture groups, showing a clear bias against left-leaning organizations. It paints a fascinating picture of the time.
So the police might have been more focused on the wrong things? That's a huge oversight.
Exactly. It raises questions about whether other potential suspects were overlooked in the rush to blame hippies. The whole thing is a fascinating blend of history, mystery, and a touch of absurdity. It's a wild story.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even seemingly straightforward events can have incredibly complex and unexpected backstories. Thanks for sharing this incredible story.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time with another fascinating story. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating, lesser-known aspect of Franz Kafka's life. His unexpected role as a champion for workers' rights. Intriguing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I always pictured Kafka as this isolated, introspective figure, consumed by his writing. This is a whole new perspective.
Exactly. The article reveals that while he was writing The Trial and Metamorphosis, Kafka worked for the Workers' Accident Insurance Institute in Prague. It wasn't just a job to him. It became a platform.
So he wasn't just processing paperwork? Oh, I see. He used his position to investigate workplace safety, right?
Precisely. He meticulously processed insurance claims, but he went much further. He anonymously wrote articles and letters, exposing unsafe working conditions and corporate negligence. He even proposed practical solutions to prevent accidents, like those in timber mills.
Wow, that's unexpected. I mean, the image of Kafka as a crusader for workers' rights is quite striking. Did his superiors know about his activism?
That's a great question. It's highly doubtful. The article suggests that many in the Institute's management were connected to factory owners, so revealing his activities could have cost him his job. A risky move, but he stood his ground.
It's almost ironic, isn't it? The author of The Trial, fighting against bureaucratic injustice in real life. It seems his experiences at the Institute might have even influenced his writing.
Absolutely. The article suggests a direct link between his first-hand experience of the harsh industrial world and his literary themes. It adds a whole new layer of depth to his work. He wasn't just observing. He was actively engaged in the struggle.
It's a compelling narrative, a fascinating counterpoint to the more familiar image of Kafka. It really challenges our preconceived notions. I mean, who knew Kafka was such a fighter?
Right? It's a reminder that even the most introspective individuals can have a profound impact on the world around them. And it's a testament to the power of using one's position, even a seemingly mundane one, to effect positive change.
It's a powerful story, and it makes me want to delve deeper into Kafka's life and work. Thanks for sharing this.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Join us tomorrow for another fascinating deep dive into the world of technology and news. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the exciting world of agent experience, or AX, a concept poised to revolutionize how we interact with applications. It's all about designing for autonomous agents, not just humans.
So instead of focusing solely on UX and DX, we're now talking about AX. What's the core difference, and why is this such a big deal?
Exactly. Think about it. AI agents, like ChatGPT or coding tools, are increasingly acting on our behalf. They navigate interfaces, make requests, execute tasks. They're essentially becoming our digital proxies. This shifts the focus from human-centric design to designing for these autonomous agents. It's a massive shift, a paradigm change, really.
I see. So how do we ensure these agents are acting with proper authorization and user consent? It sounds like a security nightmare waiting to happen.
That's where OAuth comes in. A game changer. It's a robust standard for delegating secure, scoped, and revocable access. Instead of handing over passwords, OAuth grants agents specific permissions, which users can easily revoke if needed. It's all about secure, granular control.
So OAuth is the key to secure agent interaction. But what about the actual experience for the agent? What makes for good AX?
Great question. Many UX and DX principles apply, but there are key differences. Agents, unlike humans, communicate best through APIs. Think clean, well-defined APIs with clear documentation, well-structured data, and stable endpoints. This ensures reliable interaction. Easy onboarding for both users and agents is also crucial.
I get the API part, but what about the onboarding? How do you make that seamless for an AI?
It's about minimizing friction. A single command or a concise OAuth handshake, that's the ideal. The faster an agent can get started, the better the experience. And of course, frictionless operations once the agent has the necessary permissions. Automation is key here.
Makes sense. But what about situations requiring human intervention? What if an agent needs to perform a high-stakes action?
Absolutely. That's where step-up authentication comes in. For sensitive actions like large financial transactions, a human-in-the-loop approval is essential. This could involve a device flow or a client-initiated back-channel authentication, CIBA, for extra security.
So essentially, we're talking about building systems that are both secure and efficient for AI agents. But why is this so important for businesses?
Because agents are more than just generative. They have agency. They initiate actions, not just respond to queries. Companies that invest in AGEX will be better positioned to leverage the power of Agent AI agents, those that don't risk falling behind.
And open ecosystems will likely win out, right? The ability to integrate with any agent a user prefers.
Precisely. Offering easy onboarding, open APIs, and secure authentication flows makes your product more powerful and agent-friendly. It's about embracing the future of interaction.
This is all fascinating stuff. It seems like becoming an OAuth provider is a must for any company wanting to stay competitive in this new landscape.
Absolutely. OAuth is the foundation for secure agent access. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about leveraging existing standards to build a better, more secure, and more efficient future. It's about embracing the age of agent experience.
So to recap, AX is crucial, OAuth is the key, and building agent-friendly systems is the path forward. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
My pleasure. And remember, listeners, if you're interested in implementing agent-friendly flows and becoming an OAuth provider, check out the link in the show notes for early access to a beta program. That's all for today's Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a juicy legal battle involving Meta, copyright infringement, and a whole lot of terabytes. It's a wild ride.
Oh, I've heard whispers of this. Something about Meta and pirated books? Spill the tea.
Exactly. Ars Technica just published an article detailing newly unsealed emails that paint a pretty damning picture. Apparently, Meta torrented and seeded over 81.7 terabytes of pirated books, that's 81,700 gigabytes, to train their AI models. Yikes.
81.7 terabytes? That's astronomical. What kind of books are we talking about?
The emails show they used a dataset called LibGen, which is basically a massive collection of pirated books. The authors are suing, claiming copyright infringement, and these emails are their latest ammunition.
So Meta knew it was illegal, right?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. One Meta engineer, Nikolai Bashlikov, explicitly expressed concerns in emails. He even used a smiley emoji initially, but later, he directly warned about the legal risks of seeding, sharing the pirated content, using Meta's IP addresses. His concerns seemed to fall on deaf ears, though.
So they ignored the warnings? That's incredibly reckless. Wow.
Incredibly reckless is an understatement. The emails reveal Meta tried to hide their torrenting activities, using methods to avoid tracing the downloads back to their servers. They even modified settings to minimize seeding. But the sheer scale of the operation is undeniable. It's shocking.
And what about Mark Zuckerberg? Did he know about this?
That's another key point. The unsealed emails suggest the decision to use LibGen was escalated to Zuckerberg. He previously claimed no involvement. But these emails seem to contradict that testimony. The authors are pushing for further depositions.
This is a huge deal. What's Meta's defense?
They've previously argued fair use, but with this new evidence, that defense seems significantly weaker. They also claim the plaintiffs haven't proven that any of their books were actually downloaded by a third party via Meta's torrenting. But the sheer volume of data involved makes that argument seem pretty flimsy.
It's a David and Goliath situation, isn't it? A few authors against a tech giant?
Absolutely. And the outcome will have significant implications for AI development and copyright law. This case highlights the ethical and legal gray areas surrounding the use of massive datasets for training AI models. The scale of Meta's alleged actions is unprecedented, and the legal fallout could be substantial. This is a story to follow closely.
Definitely. Thanks for breaking this down for us. This is a fascinating and concerning development.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into Meta's hyperscale infrastructure, a fascinating look at how they manage their planetary scale operations. It's mind-blowing.
Absolutely. I've been wanting to understand this better. So what's the core of their approach? Is it all about sheer scale, or is there a more nuanced strategy at play?
It's definitely more nuanced. Think hardware-software co-design at a global scale. They're not just throwing hardware at the problem. They're optimizing everything from the data center level down to individual servers, and even the software running on them. It's a holistic approach.
Interesting. So what are some key elements of their engineering culture that enable this?
Well, their culture is built on 4 pillars: move fast, technology openness, research and production, and shared infrastructure. The move fast philosophy drives their continuous deployment. They're constantly pushing updates, constantly iterating.
Wow, that's intense. How do they manage the risk associated with such rapid deployment?
That's a great question. They invest heavily in testing, staged rollouts, and health checks. They've actually increased their fully automated deployments from 12% to 97% through a company-wide initiative. They're not reckless. They're calculatedly fast.
I see. And the technology openness? How does that factor in?
They use a monorepo, a single repository for all their code. This encourages code reuse and collaboration across teams. It's incredibly open, even compared to other companies using monorepos. Plus, they're big on open source contributions, like PyTorch.
Impressive. What about their approach to hardware? They mentioned cost reduction as a major goal.
Right. They're aiming for all global data centers as a computer, treating their entire global infrastructure as a single, massive resource pool. They use sophisticated tools to optimize resource allocation across regions, dynamically migrating workloads to balance load and minimize costs. It's like a massive, self-optimizing organism.
That's a powerful analogy. And how does their AI strategy fit into this?
Their AI strategy is fully integrated. They're co-designing the entire stack, from PyTorch and their AI accelerators to the models themselves, like Llama. They're not just using AI, they're building the infrastructure to support it at an unprecedented scale.
So it's not just about the software, but also the hardware they design themselves?
Exactly. They design their own servers, network switches, and even AI chips. This allows them to optimize for their specific needs and reduce costs. They even open source many of these designs through the Open Compute project.
Fascinating. What about their approach to serverless functions?
They're huge on serverless functions. They have 2 platforms, FrontFace for user-facing functions and XFace for asynchronous tasks. This boosts developer productivity because developers only focus on the logic, not the infrastructure. They have over 500,000 servers running PHP for FrontFace alone, ensuring instant response times.
Amazing. But doesn't this level of complexity introduce challenges?
Yes, absolutely. Managing this scale is incredibly complex, but they've addressed many challenges through clever design choices, like centralized controllers for many systems. Even though decentralized systems are often praised for scalability, they've found that centralized controllers, when designed correctly, can be simpler and make better decisions.
That's counterintuitive. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. For example, their service mesh, service router, uses a centralized controller to manage global routing metadata, but individual routers self-configure. This allows them to scale to billions of RPCs per second. It's a hybrid approach that leverages the strengths of both centralized and decentralized architectures.
I see. So what are some of the future directions they're exploring?
They anticipate a huge increase in AI workloads, the rise of domain-specific hardware, and a greater need for edge data centers to support real-time applications. They also see a significant increase in developer productivity, driven by AI-powered tools and further advancements in serverless paradigms.
It sounds like Meta's infrastructure is a constantly evolving, self-optimizing system, pushing the boundaries of what's possible. It's truly remarkable.
Absolutely. It's a testament to their engineering prowess and their commitment to innovation. And that's it for today's episode of Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into Nick's fascinating blog post on dynamic lake and river simulation. It's a really cool approach to procedural generation, way beyond what you typically see.
I'm really excited to hear about this. From what I gather, it's not just about pretty visuals, but a physically plausible simulation, right?
Exactly. He's not just creating rivers and lakes, he's simulating their formation and evolution. The core idea is extending particle-based hydraulic erosion. He uses particles to represent water, and these particles interact with the terrain, eroding it and depositing sediment. But he takes it further.
So it's not just about the erosion, it's about the water itself behaving differently in streams versus pools?
Precisely. He uses two maps, a stream map showing the average flow, and a pool map representing the depth of stagnant water. These maps are dynamically updated by the particles. Clever, huh?
Very clever. And how does this two-map system work in practice? Does it handle things like waterfalls and river migration?
Absolutely. The hydrology cycle involves spawning particles, letting them descend the terrain, eroding as they go, and then either contributing to a pool or, if a pool overflows, flowing to a drainage point and descending again. The descend and flood algorithms are the heart of the system.
So the particles are essentially the agents of change, sculpting the landscape and the water bodies themselves?
Yes, and the cool thing is, the stream and pool maps influence the particle's behavior. For example, the friction a particle experiences is affected by the stream map, making it easier to follow existing channels.
That's a really elegant way to achieve realism. But how does he handle the complexity of, say, a large lake? Doesn't that require a lot of computational power?
That's where the flood algorithm comes in. It's a recursive flood fill, efficiently determining the area affected by a particle entering a pool. It even handles drainage, moving excess water to lower points. However, he admits that large pools are a bottleneck.
Interesting. So what are the limitations? Are there any aspects he mentions that could be improved?
He points out a few. One is the somewhat arbitrary transition from a particle to a pool. He suggests using the Reynolds number to make this more physically accurate. Another is the lack of internal flow within pools. Currently, water just instantly flows to the outlet.
Right. And what about the results? Does the system actually produce realistic-looking landscapes?
Oh, absolutely. He shows some stunning examples. Meandering rivers, waterfalls, lakes, deltas. It all looks incredibly natural. The images and videos are amazing. He even adds trees, which further influence erosion by stabilizing the soil.
So it's not just visually impressive, but also computationally efficient enough for real-time rendering?
Yes, he explicitly states that the videos were rendered in real time. He even mentions a speed improvement he made after publishing the article, roughly doubling the simulation speed. Amazing work!
This sounds like a really significant contribution to procedural generation. It's a great blend of simplicity and realism. Thanks for sharing this.
My pleasure. And remember, listeners, you can find the full source code and more details on Nick's GitHub page. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating oral history of Andreas Andy Bechtolsheim, a pivotal figure in Silicon Valley's history. Get ready for a tech-filled journey. Buckle up.
I'm incredibly excited. Bechtolsheim's impact on computing is undeniable. Where should we begin this epic tale?
Let's start with his humble beginnings. He grew up on a Bavarian farm, a far cry from the bustling tech scene he would later dominate. But even then, his innate curiosity was evident. Taking apart tape recorders at age 4 or 5, and even sending Santa Claus a wish list with exact SKU numbers for experimental kits. Amazing!
That's incredible. A true testament to his early fascination with how things work. And how did that translate into his early technical pursuits?
He started with basic electric experiments, then moved on to transistors in the late 60s. His basement became his lab, and he built a frequency counter with plasma display tubes. So cool! This even led to a side hustle timing car races for a local club.
Wow, a true entrepreneurial spirit from a young age. Did he have any formal training at this point?
Not really. He learned mostly through hands-on experience, working as an intern at a local electronics company. This is where he designed his first microprocessor system using the Intel 8080 AL before he was even 16. He even programmed it in binary code because assemblers and compilers weren't readily available. Unbelievable.
That's just mind-blowing. So how did he transition from this early success to his time at Carnegie Mellon?
After winning a German science fair, he received a Fulbright scholarship to study in the U.S. He went to Carnegie Mellon, skipping undergraduate studies altogether, and earned his master's degree at just 20 years old. His master's project focused on networking, a theme that would continue throughout his career.
Remarkable. And how did he end up in Silicon Valley?
Pure coincidence. His Intel internship fell through, but he ended up at Stanford, working on computer-aided design. He then became a consultant at Xerox PARC, a legendary place. This is where he was exposed to the Alto computer, a major influence on his future work.
I see. So, the Alto inspired him to build his own workstation at Stanford, right?
Exactly. Using the Motorola 68000, he built the SUN workstation, which eventually led to the founding of Sun Microsystems. A pivotal moment in computing history. He even designed the printed circuit boards himself to facilitate manufacturing.
Amazing. And how did Sun Microsystems get started? Was it easy to secure funding?
Not exactly. They started with a modest $250,000, proving their worth to secure further funding. The initial business plan was only 5 pages long, incredibly concise. The key was their focus on workstations running Unix, a powerful combination that set them apart from competitors like Apollo.
Interesting. What were some of the key technical decisions that contributed to Sun's success?
The transition to the SPARC architecture was huge. It was a RISC architecture, significantly faster than the Motorola chips. A game changer. The SPARC Station 1 became a bestseller, solidifying Sun's position in the market. But it wasn't just the hardware. Their adoption of Berkeley Unix was also crucial.
Right. And what about his later ventures? I know he was involved in Gigabit Ethernet and Google.
After Sun, he founded Granite Systems, focusing on Gigabit Ethernet, which was later acquired by Cisco. A massive success. He also invested in Google early on, recognizing the potential of their PageRank algorithm. A truly prescient move. He's currently involved with Arista Networks, focusing on data center networking.
Incredible journey. What are some key takeaways from Bechtolsheim's story?
His unwavering curiosity, his hands-on approach, his ability to identify and capitalize on market opportunities, and his knack for assembling talented teams. A true visionary. He also emphasizes the importance of timing and choosing the right projects to focus on. And, of course, the power of open systems and collaboration.
Absolutely. A truly inspiring story. Thanks for sharing this fascinating look into the life and career of Andy Bechtolsheim.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Join us next time for another exciting deep dive into the world of technology. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating evolution of JavaScript's math.random function within the V8 engine. It's a story of improvements, testing, and the ever-present need for better randomness.
Right. I've always wondered how math.random actually works. It's so fundamental, yet the underlying mechanics are often overlooked.
Exactly. The core idea is simple. It gives you a pseudo-random number between 0, inclusive, and 1, exclusive. But the pseudo part is crucial. It's not truly random. It uses a deterministic algorithm, a pseudo-random number generator, PRNG. Think of it like a sophisticated, very long sequence of numbers that appears random.
So it's all about the algorithm. And V8, the JavaScript engine in Chrome, has gone through some changes, right?
Absolutely. Initially, V8 used MWC1616, a multiply with carry algorithm. It was fast and memory efficient, but it had some serious flaws. Its period length, the number of values before it repeats, was limited to 232. That's not nearly enough for many applications.
Only 232? That's surprisingly small. What were the other issues?
Yeah, it was a problem. The upper half of the generated numbers heavily depended on one part of its internal state, and, critically, it failed many statistical tests in the TestU01 suite, a standard benchmark for PRNG quality. It wasn't truly uniformly distributed, which is a big deal for randomness.
So they had to switch algorithms? What did they replace it with?
Yes, they switched to ExerShift 128+. This is a significant upgrade. It uses 128 bits of internal state, giving it a vastly larger period length of 2128.1. And importantly, it passes all the TestU01 tests. A huge improvement in quality.
Wow, that's a massive jump in quality. So is ExerShift 128 Plus perfect then?
Almost. It's a huge leap forward. But even ExerShift 128 Plus isn't cryptographically secure. For things like encryption or secure hashing, you need a cryptographically secure PRNG. That's where window.crypto.getRandomValues comes in. It's slower, but it provides the security needed for sensitive applications.
I see. So it's a trade-off between speed and security. This whole story highlights the importance of rigorous testing and the continuous improvement in even the most fundamental parts of programming languages. It's not just about making it work, but making it work well.
Precisely. And the fact that V8's developers were responsive to the issue and implemented a fix so quickly is a testament to their commitment to quality. They even encourage users to report issues, which is fantastic. Remember, if you find something, report it! That's how we improve these essential tools.
Absolutely. Thanks for shedding light on this often overlooked aspect of JavaScript. It's been a really insightful discussion.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of random number generation. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paper. Bolt. Bootstrap long chain of thought in language models without distillation. It's a game changer, really. Exciting stuff.
I'm all ears. What's the core idea here? Is it about making LLMs better at reasoning?
Exactly. The paper tackles the challenge of getting LLMs to perform long chain-of-thought reasoning, like the impressive capabilities seen in models like OpenAI's o1. But instead of relying on complex distillation techniques from already powerful models, they've developed a novel bootstrapping method. Ingenious.
So no more needing massive data sets from pre-trained models with long code abilities? That's a huge step forward, right? Tell me more.
Precisely. The current methods heavily depend on distillation from models like O1, QN, QWQ, or DeepSeek R1 Preview. This limits generalizability and creates a kind of chicken and egg problem. BOLT changes that. It uses a three-stage process. First, they bootstrap long-cont data using in-context learning on a standard instruct model, like LLAMA 3.1 to 70B instruct, for example. Think of it as teaching the model the basics.
Only a few examples needed? That's incredibly efficient.
Yeah, they only use 10 examples in their experiments. Then comes supervised fine-tuning on the bootstrap data, followed by online training to further refine the long-cont capabilities. It's a really elegant approach.
So they're essentially teaching the LLM to think step by step without needing a pre-existing master to copy? That's a significant departure from existing methods. What kind of results did they get?
Impressive results across various benchmarks. They tested it on Arena Hard, MT Bench, Wild Bench, ZebraLogic, and Math 500, covering diverse reasoning tasks. And they applied it to different model sizes, from 7B to 70B parameters. The performance gains were substantial.
That's remarkable. It seems like this approach addresses a major bottleneck in LLM development. But I wonder about the generalizability. Did they test it on tasks outside of math and coding? The paper mentions a narrow focus in previous work.
That's a great point. The paper does highlight that previous work often focused narrowly on math or coding. However, BOLT's success across multiple benchmarks suggests a broader applicability. It's definitely a promising direction. The fact that they achieved this with minimal data is particularly exciting.
Absolutely. This could significantly reduce the cost and complexity of developing LLMs with strong reasoning abilities. It's a really clever solution.
It really is. The authors have made a significant contribution to the field. This BOLT method opens up exciting possibilities for future research and development in LLMs. A truly groundbreaking paper.
Definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into Ricky Riccardi's new book, Stomp Off, Let's Go, The Early Years of Louis Armstrong, a fascinating account of Armstrong's arrival in Chicago and the launch of his legendary career. It's electrifying.
I'm buzzing about this. The article highlights Riccardi's unique approach, writing Armstrong's biography in reverse chronological order, starting with his later years and working backward. Ingenious, right?
Absolutely. It's a clever way to build suspense, revealing the origins of his genius after showcasing the mature artist. And the detail. The excerpt describes Armstrong's arrival in Chicago in 1922, down to the fried chicken on the train and the anxious wait at the station. It's incredibly vivid.
Yeah, the description of his arrival is amazing. That moment when the policeman helps him, contrasting Southern and Northern experiences with law enforcement, powerful stuff. And then, the Lincoln Gardens. The description of the venue is so evocative. That huge crystal ball.
Totally. It paints a picture of a vibrant, bustling scene. And the descriptions of the other musicians. Oliver's reaction, the MC. It's like you're right there. It's almost cinematic.
I see. One thing that struck me was Oliver's initial reaction to Armstrong's appearance. Greasy as a pig, raggedy suitcase. A bit harsh, don't you think? Up movie. Even though it's humorous in context.
You're right, it is a bit harsh. But it also underscores the contrast between Armstrong's humble beginnings and the glamorous world he was entering. It highlights the rags to riches aspect. It's a stark contrast, but it's real. And it shows Oliver's protective nature, too. He's concerned about Armstrong's nerves.
True. And the story of the private bath. Classic. It's a small detail that reveals so much about the cultural differences between New Orleans and Chicago. It's funny, but also poignant.
Exactly. Those small details are what make the story so compelling. And the way Riccardi weaves in the historical context, the Great Migration, the racial dynamics of the time. It's masterful. It's not just a biography, it's a social history.
The excerpt ends with Armstrong's first performance, his initial nerves, and then the magic happening when he and Oliver find their musical synergy. That's a perfect ending to the excerpt. It leaves you wanting more.
It certainly does. The whole article is a fantastic advertisement for the book. I'm definitely adding it to my reading list. Riccardi's dedication to Armstrong's legacy is inspiring. It's a testament to the power of meticulous research and passionate storytelling.
Me too. This has been a great discussion. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the life and times of Louis Armstrong. Until next time, keep exploring.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating journey of Emil Wallner, a self-taught AI researcher. It's a truly inspiring story.
I'm eager to hear this. He's clearly bucked the trend of traditional AI education, right? What makes his story so unique?
Absolutely. Emil's background is anything but typical. He didn't follow the standard CS or AI academic path. Instead, his journey took him from teaching in Ghana, where he was even, incredibly, anointed a village king, to driving trucks in Sweden, to touring with a band, and finally, to becoming a leading AI researcher at Google Art and Culture. It's quite the adventure.
Wow, that's quite a resume. So how did this unconventional path lead him to AI? Was it a sudden shift or a gradual evolution?
It was a bit of both, I think. He initially pursued programming to overcome bottlenecks in his other projects. A practical need. He enrolled at Ecole 42, a peer-to-peer university focused on learning best practices. Then, a deep learning internship at Floyd Hub became a pivotal moment. That's where his AI career truly launched.
Interesting. So, he essentially learned by doing? What were some of his key projects during that internship?
Exactly. He started by implementing core deep learning algorithms from scratch, then moved on to colorizing images, and finally, created a project that translates design mockups into HTML/CSS, screenshot to code, which became quite popular. All self-taught.
Incredible. That's a testament to his dedication and skill. He clearly believes in self-education. Does he advocate it for everyone?
He does, but with caveats. He acknowledges that strong self-drive and resilience are crucial. The support systems for self-taught learners are still developing here. He recommends it for early adopters, those comfortable navigating unconventional paths. He suggests exploring peer-to-peer universities like 42, Holberton School, or Lambda School as alternatives.
I see. So what about job hunting? How does a self-taught AI researcher break into the industry, especially at larger companies?
That's a great question. He points out that smaller companies often prioritize portfolios over degrees. But larger companies? It's tougher. He suggests building a strong portfolio showcasing novel projects, perhaps reproducing research papers, and writing detailed blog posts about the process. Networking and actively engaging with researchers on Twitter and through email also helps.
That makes sense. It's about demonstrating your skills through tangible results, not just academic credentials. What about his views on AI research itself? Any interesting insights there?
Oh, absolutely. He's particularly interested in areas that don't require massive compute power, focusing on reasoning and skill acquisition efficiency. He aligns with François Chollet's ideas about shifting from task-specific networks to models that learn more generally. He's exploring areas like routing networks and composable representation transformations.
Fascinating. So he's looking beyond just solving specific tasks and towards more generalizable intelligence. What about his thoughts on AGI, artificial general intelligence?
He believes we're still far from AGI, but the next decade will be crucial. The combined increase in researchers, accessible education, and compute resources will significantly impact progress. He thinks by the end of the 2020s, we'll have a much clearer picture of whether current approaches are leading us towards true general intelligence.
That's a thoughtful perspective. It's not just about technological advancements, but also about our collective understanding and approach to the problem. Any final thoughts on Emil's story?
His journey is a powerful example of how passion, dedication, and a willingness to embrace unconventional paths can lead to remarkable success. It's a truly inspiring story for anyone interested in AI, regardless of their background. You can connect with Emil on Twitter at @EmilWallner and on GitHub @EmilWallner. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into Frank Lloyd Wright's ambitious and frankly insane mile-high skyscraper proposal, the Illinois. It's a fascinating clash of his ideologies.
Right. The guy championed sprawling Broadacre City, a vision of low-rise suburban utopia. Then he designs a building taller than anything ever conceived? It's a paradox.
Exactly. The article highlights this tension beautifully. Wright, a staunch anti-density advocate, proposes a structure that would house an entire city vertically, A mile high. Think about that for a second. More than 4 times the Empire State Building.
Unbelievable. So he's essentially saying, if you insist on dense living, fine, but let's do it in one colossal building, leaving the rest of the land for my idyllic broadacre city. A bit of a have your cake and eat it too approach, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. A clever workaround, if you will. But the design itself is equally intriguing. The tripod structure, the tapered form to mitigate wind forces, it's all very right. And that taproot foundation, inspired by trees, is just brilliant. He used a similar design for the S.E. Johnson Research Tower, right?
Yes, that's right. It's a recurring theme in his work. But the article suggests 2 possible interpretations of his motivation. One, a cynical attempt to satirize the skyscraper craze. A bit of a, look how ridiculous this is statement. The other, a more nuanced acknowledgement of humanity's inherent drive towards verticality.
I find the second theory more compelling. The article quotes Wright himself. Towers have always been erected by humankind. It seems to gratify humanity's ambition somehow, and they are beautiful and picturesque. He clearly recognized that inherent human desire, even while advocating for a different kind of urban landscape. It's a fascinating internal conflict.
It really is. And the sheer scale of the Illinois, a mile high, it's breathtaking in its audacity. It makes you wonder what could have been. Imagine the engineering challenges alone.
Precisely. The article does a great job of showcasing the architectural ingenuity, the conceptual brilliance, and the inherent contradictions within Wright's vision. It's a testament to his enduring legacy as a visionary architect, even when his ideas seem to clash.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even the most staunch proponents of a particular philosophy can be influenced by other factors, even seemingly contradictory ones. It makes for a much more interesting and complex narrative.
And that's what makes this story so compelling. It's not just about a skyscraper. It's about the complexities of urban planning, the human desire for verticality, and the fascinating internal contradictions of a true visionary. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Frank Lloyd Wright's audacious skyscraper proposal. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating situation unfolding in the Falkland Islands. A Starlink service disruption that's escalating into a potential national emergency. The core issue? Hundreds of Falkland Islanders are using Starlink illegally, despite a lack of official approval.
Wow, that sounds intense. So it's not just a few people, it's hundreds? What's the legal snag here?
Exactly. Sure, International holds a telecommunications monopoly, making Starlink's operation illegal, even though a petition with 70% support pushed for Starlink's legalization and a reduction in the exorbitant £5,400 VSAT license fee. Official approval is delayed until April. Meanwhile, Starlink's 60-day roaming period for many users expired on Friday, causing service terminations.
Oh, so it's a ticking time bomb. A mass service outage in the Falkland Islands. That's a serious problem, especially considering the remote location.
Precisely. And it's not just the unlicensed users. Even those who paid the hefty £5,400 for a VSAT license are now affected. The government's in a bind because they've essentially sanctioned illegal activity by issuing these licenses. It's a messy situation with no easy answers.
It seems incredibly unfair to those who paid for the licenses. They're in the same boat as the unlicensed users, facing service cuts. What's the government's response?
The government's response is, well, delayed. They're considering declaring a national emergency, which would allow them to bypass the legal hurdles and authorize Starlink immediately. The author of the article points out that they declared a national emergency during COVID-19 within half a day, so the speed of response is a key point of contention.
I see. So, a national emergency declaration is the proposed solution? But isn't that a bit drastic? Couldn't they just expedite the approval process?
That's a valid point. The article argues that the scale of the disruption and the potential consequences justify the drastic measure. The author highlights the potential for a complete communications blackout if Sure's satellite system fails, making the current situation even more urgent. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, really.
It certainly is. It's a fascinating case study in how quickly technology can disrupt established systems and expose legal loopholes. And the ethical dilemma for Starlink is significant. Should they prioritize those who paid or treat everyone equally, even if it means breaking the law?
Absolutely. Starlink is caught in a difficult position. The article suggests that differentiating between licensed and unlicensed users would be highly controversial and ethically questionable. It's a complex situation with no easy answers, and the pressure is mounting. We'll have to wait and see how this unfolds.
Definitely a story to follow. Thanks for breaking it down for us.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We'll keep you updated on this developing story. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into the world of software engineering with a focus on mathematical precision. Inspired by the work of Leslie Lamport, get ready for some serious tech talk.
I'm pumped. Lamport's name keeps popping up. Latex, Paxos. The guy's a legend. But what's this about mathematical perfection in software? Isn't that a bit idealistic?
Idealistic, maybe, but incredibly impactful. Lamport argues that many software issues stem from a lack of rigorous mathematical thinking. He's not talking about advanced calculus, but applying fundamental mathematical principles to algorithm design and system specification. Think of it like this. A chef wouldn't attempt a complex banquet without detailed recipes, right?
Right, that's a great analogy. So instead of just coding, he advocates for a more formal approach?
Exactly. He champions formal verification, using mathematical proofs to ensure software correctness. He even created TLA+, a specification language that lets engineers describe a program's behavior mathematically. It's like writing the perfect recipe before you start cooking.
Interesting. But isn't that a lot of extra work up front? Most projects are already under tight deadlines.
That's a valid concern. Lamport acknowledges the rush mentality in software development, the "there's never time to do it right" syndrome, but he argues that for critical systems, think cloud infrastructure, chip design, the upfront effort of formal specification pays off massively in preventing costly bugs and data loss down the line. It's about investing in quality early on.
I see. So TLA Plus is like a blueprint, ensuring the software behaves as intended. But how does it actually work? Does it automatically generate code?
Not exactly. TLA Plus provides a rigorous specification. Then, tools like model checkers can verify if the specification is consistent and meets the desired behavior. It's not about automatic code generation, but about ensuring the design is sound before any code is written. It's a shift in mindset, a move from coding first to design first.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. But why isn't TLA Plus more widely adopted? Is it just too complex?
That's a big part of it. Many programmers, Lamport argues, are intimidated by math. There's also a disconnect between programming education and formal verification. The two fields don't communicate enough. He believes that undergraduate computer science needs to emphasize mathematical thinking more. It's not about advanced math, but about applying basic principles rigorously.
So it's a cultural issue as much as a technical one? A lack of mathematical literacy among programmers?
Precisely. Lamport's work highlights a crucial gap. He's not just advocating for a specific tool, but for a fundamental shift in how we approach software engineering. A more rigorous, mathematically informed approach. It's about building software with the precision of a mathematician, not just the creativity of a coder.
That's a powerful message. It makes you think about the potential for fewer bugs, more reliable systems, and ultimately, safer technology. Thanks for breaking this down.
My pleasure. And remember, folks, even the pronunciation of latex is up for debate, just like the best way to build software. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating, albeit slightly unusual, piece of World War II history. Pigeon-guided missiles. Can you believe it?
Pigeons? Seriously? That sounds unconventional, to say the least. What's the story here?
Yeah, it's wild. During World War II, psychologist B.F. Skinner, the behaviorist guy, had this idea to train pigeons to guide missiles. The project was called Pigeons in a Pelican, and it actually worked.
Wait, worked? How did they even do that? I'm picturing pigeons pecking at joysticks or something.
Haha, almost. The missiles had a small compartment with a trained pigeon inside. The pigeon was trained to peck at a target image projected onto a screen. Each peck adjusted the missile's course. Apparently, the pigeons were remarkably accurate.
Incredible! So they essentially used operant conditioning to create a living guidance system? That's some seriously creative problem solving, even if it sounds a bit out there.
Exactly. And the best part? The project was recently recognized at the 2024 IG Nobel Prize Awards. It's a testament to the ingenuity, and maybe a little bit of the craziness, of wartime innovation.
The IG Nobels, right. Celebrating achievements that make you laugh, then make you think. So, the BBC article also mentions Skinner's daughter, Julie Vargas, being interviewed. Did she shed any light on the project's origins?
Yeah, she did. The article doesn't go into extensive detail, but it suggests the idea, while seemingly outlandish, stemmed from a genuine need for innovative guidance systems during the war. It was a time of desperate measures. You know?
I see. So it wasn't just some random crackpot idea, but a product of its time and the urgent need for effective military technology. It makes you wonder what other unusual projects were undertaken during the war that we haven't heard about yet.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that even the most seemingly bizarre ideas can sometimes lead to surprising results, especially under pressure. And it's a great story, isn't it? A story of pigeons, missiles, and the IG Nobel Prize. Who could have predicted that?
Definitely a memorable one. Thanks for sharing this fascinating piece of history with us.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating IIHS study on vehicle size and safety. Completely flips the script on the bigger is better mentality, you know? It's a real eye-opener.
Yeah, I saw the headline. I always assumed a bigger car meant more protection. So what's the main takeaway from this research?
The core finding is that the safety benefits of larger vehicles plateau pretty quickly. Once a vehicle's weight surpasses the average, around 4,000 pounds, any extra weight offers minimal added safety for its occupants. It's counterintuitive, right?
Totally. So what about the danger to others?
That's where it gets really interesting. Adding weight to a vehicle that's already heavier than average significantly increases the risk to occupants of other vehicles involved in a collision. It's like a disproportionate increase in danger.
So essentially, a heavier vehicle becomes a bigger threat to smaller vehicles? That's a pretty significant finding.
Exactly. The study looked at crashes between cars, SUVs, and pickups from 2011 to 2022. They found that for lighter vehicles, each 500-pound increase in weight reduced the risk of driver death. But for heavier vehicles, that same weight increase barely improved safety for the occupants, but significantly increased the risk for those in other vehicles.
I see. So it's not just about the overall size, but the weight relative to other vehicles on the road?
Precisely. The study highlights the importance of crash compatibility. For years, larger SUVs and pickups posed a greater threat due to mismatched force-absorbing structures, but automakers have made improvements since 2009, aligning these structures better.
Interesting. So, the improvements in crash compatibility have lessened the overall danger, but the weight issue remains a concern for heavier vehicles?
Yes. While improvements have been made, the study shows that the weight of heavier vehicles still poses a significant risk to others. The researchers even suggest that lighter pickups could significantly improve overall road safety.
That's a bold statement. I mean, pickups are often associated with hauling heavy loads. How does that factor in?
That's a great point. The study acknowledges that many pickup truck owners don't regularly haul heavy loads, so the extra weight in those vehicles is often unnecessary and contributes to the increased risk to other drivers.
So the study suggests that focusing on weight reduction, especially in heavier vehicles, could be a more effective safety measure than simply increasing overall vehicle size?
Absolutely. The study strongly suggests that focusing on weight reduction, particularly in heavier vehicles, could be a more effective safety measure than simply increasing overall vehicle size. It's a shift in thinking about vehicle safety.
This is fascinating stuff. It really challenges the common assumption that bigger equals safer. Thanks for breaking this down.
My pleasure. It's crucial information for consumers and policymakers alike. Remember, folks, safety isn't just about protecting yourself. It's about protecting everyone on the road. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly shocking development in the Lucy Letby case. An expert panel has concluded there's no medical evidence to support her conviction. Unbelievable, right?
Absolutely unbelievable. I mean, she's serving multiple whole life sentences for murdering and attempting to murder babies. This panel's findings are massive. What exactly did they find?
Well, 14 leading experts, including a former president of the Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health, reviewed the cases. Their conclusion? No medical evidence supports the claim that Letby caused any of the deaths or injuries. They attributed the deaths to a combination of factors, including poor medical care, inadequate staffing, and natural causes.
So they're saying the hospital itself was essentially negligent? Wow.
Exactly. The report highlights numerous problems: inadequate training, delays in treatment, misdiagnosis, even plumbing issues. They even suggested that some deaths were potentially preventable. One example cited was a baby who died from thrombosis due to a 4-hour delay in starting an infusion. Absolutely shocking.
And what about the insulin poisoning accusations? Those were a key part of the prosecution's case, weren't they?
Yes. The panel also cast serious doubt on that. A report by Professor Jeff Chase found that the insulin and C-peptide levels weren't unusual for babies of that age, and that the tests used weren't even of forensic quality. It seems the original defense team's failure to present medical experts really hurt the case.
I see. So this report essentially suggests that the original trial may have been based on flawed evidence and a failure to properly investigate the hospital's role in the deaths. This is huge.
It's absolutely huge. The report has been sent to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, which is now formally examining the case. Letby's lawyer is calling for her release on bail, claiming this is overwhelming evidence that her conviction is unsafe. Though, that's likely at least a year away, and the Crown Prosecution Service is strongly opposing it.
This whole situation raises serious questions about the justice system, doesn't it? The potential for a miscarriage of justice on this scale is terrifying. And the impact on the families involved is unimaginable.
Absolutely. It's a deeply complex and tragic situation with far-reaching implications. This isn't just about one person's conviction. It's about systemic failures within the hospital and potentially within the justice system itself. We'll be following this story closely.
Definitely. This is a story that demands further investigation and scrutiny. Thanks for breaking this down for us.
You're welcome. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We'll keep you updated on any further developments in this incredibly important story. Have a great day, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of reasoning LLMs, a topic that's been making waves in the AI community. The core idea is enhancing large language models to excel at complex, multi-step reasoning tasks, going beyond simple question answering.
Right, it's not just about spitting out answers. It's about showing the process of arriving at those answers, right? That's a crucial distinction. So exciting.
Exactly. The article highlights 4 main approaches. First, there's inference time scaling, essentially giving the LLM more computational resources during inference to improve the quality of its reasoning. Think of it like giving a human more time to think through a problem. It's a clever approach.
I see. So it's not about changing the model itself, but how you use it. Like clever prompt engineering, using chain of thought prompting to guide the model's reasoning process?
Precisely. And then there's pure reinforcement learning, like in DeepSeek R10. Amazingly, they showed that reasoning can emerge as a learned behavior without any initial supervised fine-tuning. Just pure RL, using accuracy and format rewards.
Whoa, that's a significant finding. So the model essentially learns to reason on its own, just from the rewards? That's mind-blowing.
It is. But the article also points out that while fascinating, RL plus SFT, supervised fine-tuning, is generally more effective for building high-performance reasoning models. DeepSeek-R1, their flagship model, uses this combined approach. It's a powerful combination.
And the fourth approach is model distillation. where smaller models are trained on data generated by larger, more powerful models. A cost-effective way to get decent reasoning capabilities, but it relies on the existence of a strong teacher model, right?
Exactly. It's a bit like apprenticeship. You're not innovating, but you're leveraging existing knowledge efficiently. The DeepSeek team also explored this, creating smaller, more efficient versions of their R1 model. A very practical approach.
So, how does DeepSeek R1 compare to OpenAI's OM1? The article mentions they're in the same ballpark, but DeepSeek R1 is more efficient at inference time. Interesting.
Yeah, that's a key takeaway. It suggests that OpenAI might be relying more on inference time scaling for OM1, while DeepSeek focused more on the training process itself. But it's hard to say definitively because OpenAI hasn't revealed much about OM1's architecture or training details. It's frustrating, you know?
Totally. It's like comparing apples and oranges without knowing what kind of oranges we're talking about. The article also discusses the cost of training these models, millions of dollars for DeepSeek R1, but there are some more budget-friendly approaches mentioned, like SkyT1 and TinyZero.
Yes. SkyT1, trained for just $450, shows that impressive results are possible with smaller, targeted fine-tuning. And TinyZero, a 3B parameter model using pure RL, demonstrates that even small models can exhibit emergent reasoning abilities. It's inspiring. It shows that you don't need massive resources to contribute to this field.
Absolutely. The article also mentions journey learning, an alternative to traditional SFT that includes incorrect solution paths in the training data. This seems like a promising approach for improving robustness and self-correction.
It does. It's a really interesting idea, and it highlights the ongoing evolution of techniques for building and improving reasoning LLMs. The field is moving so fast. It's incredible.
It really is. So in summary, we've covered 4 main approaches to building reasoning LLMs. Inference time scaling, pure RL, RL plus SFT, and distillation. Each has its strengths and weaknesses, and the best approach depends on the specific goals and resources available.
Precisely. And the exciting part is that the field is still rapidly evolving. We're seeing innovative approaches like journey learning emerge, and budget-friendly alternatives like SkyT1 and TinyZero demonstrate that significant progress is possible, even with limited resources. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating paper on autonomous driving. Robust autonomy emerges from self-play. It's a real game changer, you know? Unprecedented results.
Whoa, unprecedented? That's a bold claim. What makes this research so groundbreaking? I'm particularly interested in how they achieved such robust performance.
Right. The key is self-play, but on a massive scale. We're talking 1.6 billion kilometers of simulated driving. That's like driving around the Earth 40,000 times. They used a supercharged simulator called GigaFlow, which can generate the equivalent of 42 years of driving experience per hour on a single 8 GPU node. Mind-blowing.
42 years of driving experience per hour? That's, I need a moment to process that. So, this massive dataset trained a driving policy, right? How did it perform?
Exactly. And the policy absolutely smashed the existing state-of-the-art on 3 independent benchmarks. But here's the really impressive part. It outperformed those benchmarks even when tested on real-world scenarios, recorded with human drivers, without ever having seen any human driving data during training.
That's incredible. So it learned to drive realistically just by playing against itself? No human intervention? No. That challenges the conventional wisdom that human data is essential for training autonomous driving systems.
Precisely. And not only that, the resulting policy is incredibly robust. In simulation, it averaged 17.5 years of continuous driving between incidents. That's just unheard of.
17.5 years? I'm speechless. What's the catch? There has to be a limitation, right? Surely it doesn't perform perfectly in all situations.
Well, it's still a simulation, so there are always limitations in transferring that to the real world. But The results are undeniably impressive. The paper highlights the potential of self-play as a powerful technique for training robust AI systems, not just in games, but in complex real-world tasks like autonomous driving.
This is a significant leap forward. It really opens up new avenues for research in AI and autonomous systems. The scale of the simulation is astonishing, and the robustness of the resulting policy is truly remarkable. It seems like self-play might be the key to unlocking truly reliable autonomous vehicles.
Absolutely. This research is a testament to the power of large-scale simulation and the surprising effectiveness of self-play. It's a fascinating glimpse into the future of autonomous driving and AI in general. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of self-playing autonomous vehicles. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the surprisingly messy world of DNS resolution, specifically the woes of Getadrinfo and its alternatives. It's a wild ride.
I'm all ears. So, Getadrinfo, the seemingly ubiquitous function for DNS resolution. What's the problem?
Well, it's a bit of a legacy system, you know? It's synchronous, meaning it blocks the calling thread until it gets a response. Imagine the I freeze, plus it's incredibly limited. You get IPs and maybe a CNAME, but no TTL, no other record types, and no control over OS caching. It's like getting a postcard instead of an email in the age of instant messaging.
So what are the alternatives? The article mentions several oxygen monosulfide-specific APIs.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting and frustrating. On Linux, res_unquery is a lifesaver, well-documented, thread-safe, and works as expected, a breath of fresh air compared to the others.
Sounds idyllic, but what about other platforms? Android, for example.
Android, a different story. Resquery is essentially broken. It just doesn't work. Then there's Android res_inquiry, which is better but only available from Android 10 onwards. It returns a file descriptor which is unique.
Unique. I see. And Windows?
Windows uses DNSQuery_A. It's powerful, but it crashes on Windows 10. Yes, you heard that right. It returns success, but the results are NUL. Works fine on Windows 11, though. Go figure.
Incredible. So inconsistency across platforms is the major theme here?
Absolutely. macOS is no exception. Res_query isn't thread safe, and DNS service query record, well, it hangs indefinitely if there are no records. It's a nightmare.
So what's the takeaway? Should developers even bother with these platform-specific APIs?
It's a tough call. If you're targeting only one OS, maybe. But dealing with all these inconsistencies and bugs across platforms is incredibly painful. The author even suggests writing your own DNS resolver. It's that bad.
Wow. So a plea for a unified cross-platform DNS API is in order then?
Precisely. Something with the power of DNS Query A, the flexibility of Android ResEnquiry, and the reliability of ResEnquiry would be a dream come true. A developer's prayer, really. But until then, we're stuck navigating this fragmented landscape of DNS resolution.
This has been eye-opening. Thanks for breaking down this complex issue. It's clear that DNS, despite its fundamental role, still has a long way to go in terms of standardization and reliability.
You're very welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.